Hello, welcome to our second session of Getting Started with WordPress. So we are on page 5 of the Getting Started guide that I've posted to Schoology. And this video will pick up where the part 1 left off, and this will get us to basically the end of what I want to have you accomplish this week, so that next week we can jump into getting some content on your About page. So just like last time, I have signed in as my daughter in order for this to look just like it should look for you. A new account, a new website. Um, so the walkthrough step by step that I do should look exactly as it'll look for you. So if you look at the guide, I said we're on page 5, so this is continuing WordPress. I start out talking about the themes, which I had you play around with a little bit last time. So checking my theme on here, I had left this on Pen Scratch 2, which if you're looking at page 5, you'll notice that that is one that I recommend. Like I said, you can use any theme. I'm not requiring you to use a particular one, but you'll want to stick with one that is well suited for the kind of website that we're making, and that'll work well for the layout that you want to have and the options that you need. So scrolling down here, let me see if I can. This is just giving me recommended. I'm going to switch it so it's just showing me free. Um, and so it's a lot of the same themes are what show up here. So if you look at these, a lot of them are very visual, right? Big images, lots of images, and that makes sense. They're websites. But for a personal profile, you're not going to have a lot of images. You'll have some, but there are lots of templates, lots of themes on here, like this one, that are really better suited for blogs or for businesses where you would want to have a lot of pictures of your products, for instance. And since that's not what we're doing, you want to pick a theme that works well, that gives you the right kind of layout for the website that we're making, right? So like this one wouldn't work very well at all because it's almost all images and you would need a lot of images for it. I don't want you to end up with any of the stock images that come with the theme remaining in your website. You want to replace those with your own images. So you're better off only having a few to work with. All right, so about halfway down on page 5, talks about blog posts and static pages. And so this is kind of an important point and something we need to cover early, is that WordPress basically has 3 configurations with blogs and pages. So I give you this numbered list toward the bottom of the page. You can make your site primarily a blog organized chronologically. This is the WordPress default configuration. You can make a static page dominated website with a blog embedded in a page. This is what you might see on some professional homepages, like some of the examples I've posted. You can skip the blog and make your website entirely from static pages. And this is more like what you'd expect from a traditional website, and it works fine for a professional site about you. So generally, my students doing this assignment usually go with just static pages. If you've always wanted to do a blog, if you think that a blog would be beneficial for your professional profile, you certainly could do that. It's an option. But most of the time, everybody just goes with the static pages, doesn't plan on doing anything with a blog, and that's fine too. That's kind of what I'm expecting. But it is worth noting because WordPress was originally designed for blogs. It's been around a long time now, and it started out only doing blogs. And now the websites that it offers and hosts, make up a large chunk of the internet, but it still kind of specializes in blogs as well. And so that's why, as I mentioned on there, blogs are kind of the default uh, for whatever theme you choose most of the time. So we want to change some of the basic settings here in order to have your site work the way we want it to and for your home page to work the way you want it to. So we're going to take a look now at page 6 of the guide and creating a static front page. So for this, we want to go to Pages. So I'll expand my site menu here. So you see the pages that we have on here, the default ones that come with the site. And some of these could differ a little bit depending on your theme. But since the current configuration of WordPress starts us all out with Heaver, I suspect we'll all have these same 4 options here. But what they look like is going to depend on what theme you have now. So I currently have Pen Scratch 2. And so these will look a particular way because of that. I have an about page already, and it looks, decent for one of the themes. It looks like a pretty nice, simple about page, but some of the themes you end up with maybe won't have one that looks simple and nice. They might look nice, but they might be complicated or have lots of stuff you don't necessarily want or need on there. So I want all of us to make a new page, and we're going to make an about page. And if after getting it started, you decide you like the default better, the one that's already offered by your theme, then you can always go with that one instead of the about page we're going to make. Okay, so we are on step 1 of the creating a static front page. We're on page 6. So we're in pages. We want to add a new page. And they've moved this button. It used to be right here. Now it's this pinkish fuchsia button over here. So we're going to add a new page. And because of the theme I'm using, it's giving me some of the templates, the layouts that come with this particular theme. And so these are some of the about pages that it has. So like I said, like some of these, this is the one that it currently has. That could work okay. Some of the other ones could work okay, but some of them have stuff you don't want, right? Like this one probably has some elements you wouldn't want on there. Preview it for a minute. Where ultimately you'd be needing to get rid of some of this stuff. And I need you guys to start getting some practice with just adding some content to pages. So we're going to go with a blank page. We'll use blank page layout. Okay, so this is edit mode on a page. There's nothing here at the moment. Step 2, we want to give it a name. And for our purposes, we will call this about. And this is where we would add content to it. But at the moment, I'm not asking you to add any content. We're just getting things set up. So I want to go ahead and publish this. And notice I have to publish it again for it to actually go public and get published. Now, having done this, having published this page, from now on, when I come back to edit it, any changes that I make will give me the blue button will say update instead of publish. All right, so I've got this created. As I mentioned at the bottom of page 6, we can edit this later. So now we are on to page 7. And now we need to set it as our static front page. To make sure we don't get this about page mixed up with the one that came with it, I'm going to, I don't really want to trash it at the moment. I could copy it into a draft. Maybe that's the thing to do. Yeah, so this is what the default looks like, which is pretty nice, but I want to give you the experience of creating a page from scratch. So I'm going to save this as a draft, go back. Okay, so now my drafts, I've got an about page in there, which is using the template. So this one I'm going to get rid of. we're on page 7. We need to get into design and get into our customize menu. And so here, like I said, depending on which theme you might have different options here, but all of them will have a home page settings option. So I'm going to click on this, and oh, interesting. So this particular theme did set up my home page as a static page. Many of them won't. A lot of times when you get to this home page setting, it'll start out with this radial button being the one that's selected. So I'm going to select this radio button instead and switch it to static page, or if yours is already on that, that's fine. We're going to change the home page to about, which right now it's the about page we just created, so there's not anything there except the title of it. That's fine. And then this post page would be if we were also going to have a blog, but we're not. So I'm just going to leave that as select. I'm not going to select anything. So notice static page is highlighted, home page is set for about, post page is nothing. I'm going to save changes. So I'm going to go back. We have some custom pages because we just created that about page. So the next step is to add those to our menus. Now this is a really important step that you're going to need to do later also. So try to remember how we do it now so that when you create your resume page and your contact page, you can add those to your menu as well. So we need to go to menus. And what you have here could vary depending on your theme. Pretty much all of them will have a primary or some other, it may just say menu, it might not say primary. And so our primary menu had a few pages. We got rid of the old about page. We moved it to drafts. So now this is invalid. So notice over here, it shows home, blog, and contact. So that's because that's what's in our menu over here. So when we create new pages, we still have to add those to the menu. Let's go with add items because that'll make it easy to get rid of them too. So after you click add items, this second menu opens up and we now have red X's over here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of invalid. I'm going to get rid of blog because I'm not going to use a blog. I'll actually get rid of that page completely. And I may end up getting rid of home as well. But for the moment, I'll just leave it there. And I need to add my new about page. So that should be this one. And notice that it's put home, contact, it put about at the bottom. Because my about page is my home page, I'm actually going to move it to the top. And I think for the time being, I'm going to go ahead and remove my home page from the menu too. So these pages, they still exist. These are all the pages that exist on my site as published pages, but the menu only shows these two. And you can see that in the example over here. It gives me some options in menu locations. Some of the themes won't have any of these checked. There are some themes that do not have a menu showing initially. And so you need to add that. All of our sites need to have menus. So you should check at least one of these boxes. I suggest only checking one. And go ahead and save changes. So like I said, this is a really important step to remember. You're going to create additional pages, at the very least a resume page, probably a contact page too, and you'll need to add those to your menu after you get the pages created. So now that our menu's updated, we have just 2 items left to cover for this getting started portion of getting our websites up and running. So I'm going to close out of this. If I click back, it'll take me back to my customize menu eventually, but I'm going to close out so I get to my site menu. Okay, so now I'm in my site, and I've changed it so that my about page is my home page. I know I'm not going to want to blog, so I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that. And I think I will go ahead and get rid of the home page too. Because our about page will be our home page, which, because we're making a profile, a professional profile about yourself, it makes sense that your about page is your home page. It could be for some variations of sites that it would make sense to keep a home page, but for most of us, it would make sense to just get rid of it so that you have about, resume, contact. So now we're halfway down page 9 into customizing pages. So I'm in my pages menu already, and I've created that about page. Now I want to go see how I actually add content to that. So I could go over to this ellipsis and click edit. It should also take me into edit mode if I just click on the word about there. And then we're back in this screen, right, that we saw after we first created the page. We've already published it as our about page, but there's nothing here. So I want you to see how we can start getting some content in here that actually, if you wanted to start with copying and pasting some of your material out of your reflection essay after you get that done, or at least get a draft of it, that would give you some text to start with. I'm going to go with just a little bit of introductory bit here. So this just gives you an idea, just to get some text in there, something to get us started. And like I said, after you get some of your reflection essay, you could actually use portions of that as part of your about page. This gives us some sense of what block we're currently using and ways we could manipulate that. We're not going to mess with that too much at the moment. If I press enter here. Okay, so that gives me a new block below it, and I could add different kinds of blocks for that. So if I wanted to do subheadings, I could do a heading block, and then do another text block here. That kind of thing. So anyways, I just want to give you an example how we could get some text on here, get things started. I'm not expecting you to add very much to your about page this week. The real goal here is to just get everything set up initially so that next week, after you turn in your reflection essay for Monday, we can jump into starting to get some more content on here. This little pop-up, it won't stay here for very long, but it does pop up when you first hit that update page where you can view it. I always like viewing to see what the page looks like after it's gone live. And so here you can see what that particular size of heading. Notice there's no color here yet, so I'll have to play around a little bit to get some color in there. But like I said, we're just getting things started. I'm going to go back to my site, and there's one other thing that I wanted us to cover before we end this particular session. At the bottom of page 10, I mentioned widgets. And widgets are basically apps for WordPress. So you may not do much with this. You don't have to do very much with it, but it's a good thing to be aware of. So this is something you may want to play around with. I'm back on my customize menu. I'm going to go to widgets. This should be an option for pretty much any theme. Where it tells you can put a widget is going to depend on what options your theme offers. So I'll try the sidebar here. And so this is going to give you some different kinds of elements, some different apps that you could put in. If we did image here, it would be a widget, and so it would show up on all of our pages. So if you wanted to have the same image show up on every page, you could. There's a calendar. It's a pretty simple one. I also sometimes just like using the text widget. If I do that, I would probably put it in the footer instead of in the sidebar. But if you wanted some bit of text that would show up on all your pages, you could do that. You could have, I don't know that I want a title on it. I don't remember off the top of my head what the different Creative Commons licenses are. But see, as I'm typing it in there, you can see how it pops up over here. So that would be in the sidebar. If I wanted to see what it would look like in the footer instead, I could do that. So some things to play around with. I'm not going to save changes because I don't want to have those in there. But it's another element of your layout that might be worth thinking about as you are developing your site. So that's what I wanted to cover today. We should be completely set up and ready to go now. If you've gotten this far, you've already got a little bit of content on your About page. You've got that page created. So come next week, the next video I create, we'll get into adding some more content to it.